Pneumonia remains the leading infectious killer, especially among children under 5, claiming more than 700,000 young lives each year globally, despite being preventable and treatable. In Nigeria, where access to basic health care and immunization remains a challenge in many rural communities, health experts say pneumonia continues to pose a major threat to child survival. This year's observance of World Pneumonia Day highlights the importance of strengthening primary health care systems, investing in vaccines, and improving nutrition to reduce pneumonia. Pneumonia-related deaths. Health authorities are also calling for more public awareness and action to community levels to ensure that no child dies from a preventable disease. As the world marks World Pneumonia Day 2025, the message is every child deserves the right to breathe, survive, and thrive. This and more are some of the issues we'll be discussing on the program today. Thanks for joining us and welcome to Nigeria Today. Now with me in the studio to discuss pneumonia and child survival is a pulmonologist, Dr. Jafaru Momodu. He's from the National Hospital, Abuja. It's a pleasure to have you.
Thank you so much. Nice having me here.
So I'll start from the basics. We hear pneumonia. Often, most times people want to associate it with cold. So tell us, what does pneumonia mean?
Thank you so much once again. Pneumonia, simply put, is actually what we call an inflammation of the lung parenchyma. What do I mean? The lungs, it's more like a big bag or balloon that helps us breathe. And there are different divisions of the lungs. And the lower part actually is where the oxygen takes place. So we have infection of the lungs, of which these particular areas that helps us breathe is actually affected. Okay, and it could be filled with water, fluids, it could be filled with even pus. And mind you, as I said, this organ is meant to help us breathe well. When we have sediments or things within there that goes in there, and in terms of infection, creating different signs and symptoms of which people have, like fever, cough, also making it difficult for us to breathe. These are the pictures you normally will see with pneumonia. So when we want to put it simply in the best way, infection of the lungs for everybody to understand. And be it cold, whatever people will say, that can be a myth. But on the other hand, cold weather or exposure to cold can be a risk factor for which germs can easily spread. So I don't know if I can just put it at that. Germs can easily spread in the cold, most especially the viral organisms, okay, bacteria. So when we leave people in cold, most especially those who expose themselves, germs can easily move with that, and they can get infected with their lungs, leading to pneumonia. So pneumonia could be caused from either from viral origin, from viruses, it could be from bacteria, it could even be from fungi. So depending on how exposed you are to these germs, or let me put it, infectious organisms that now gets their way into the lungs, defeating all the mechanisms God has put there for the lungs to actually thrive and cope diseases.
Is there a particular season of the year where the risk, is high for one to, get that disease?
Okay, so thank you so much. It's not really per se the particular season. It actually has to do with the wind movement, the effectiveness of that particular strain that is involved. Okay, but sometimes it's most said that during the cold weather, the air is more cooler. Okay, and the transmission in terms of wind, the aerosols tend to stay more than in hot weather, where heat can easily hit them, they fall down or move or swept away. So the cold can also in a way affect or preserve which those aerosols can stay within the air molecules, and people get to inhale that and then develop diseases from inhaling.
Okay. Now, this year we have this year's World Pneumonia Day. It's talking about the child survival. How much is the burden of the disease on the country, especially among young people?
Thank you so much for that question. It's not just only in Nigeria per se. If you look at pneumonia, it's actually a very, very serious menace it's causing to healthcare, most especially along with infectious diseases. Of note is the fact that amongst children, Nigeria ranks #1. Using the 2019 statistics, we had close to about 443 deaths per day, about 18 in every hour, of children dying from these diseases that are preventable. Okay, so it's really been, if you look at the way diseases are coming up now, even with the infectious disease, pneumonia is one of the top causes, you understand, of death, and respiratory causes too. And if you look at it, it's preventable, it's treatable. Okay, so for the burden for the children, most especially, it was almost in thousands of deaths that happened. And Nigeria constituted a very important statistics worldwide. So there is need to actually curb this burden. It's quite a problem, okay, knowing the fact that even amongst all the African countries that were checked about who also had pneumonia, it's still almost similar the same disease, but we just had more deaths. Why? These are some of the things that we're trying to push into, put in an awareness. And as much as the WHO is trying to put in the Sustainable Development Goals, if you look at the 3.2, the targets, or SDG 3, and most especially 3.2, the target, shows how we prevent preventable deaths, most especially on the under 5s. And I think that is quite key because that's where we have bulk of the deaths that are actually occurring from pneumonia. But mind you, it's not just a one-way statistics. It's commoner in the extremes of age. Those below 5, those greater than 65. Most of the elderly who come to the hospital, either they're coming up with pneumonia or urinary tract infection. That's what brings them. It's actually nicknamed the old people's friend, pneumonia, because it kills them. So it kills both extremes of age. So you have data even as high as from 7% to 26%, various studies showing deaths that occur in adults from pneumonia. Then you have also these overwhelming figures that you hear from children. And these things are quite preventable. And in as much as we try to say all of this, it's good to mention at this point in time that even though the government is still trying to push more plans, like if you can see, I think the government has the Nigerian Child Survivor Action Plan, which was instituted 2025. This actually targets that 3.2 so that Nigeria will be able to bridge that gap or achieve that sustainable development goals. And that's why they're calling for more collaboration with people. Let's see how we can come in and help these children. Vis-a-vis, are we vaccinating them well? People now, more especially cultural, religious, or even some sentiments might not want to take vaccines, which is very key, a very key way of preventing these germs from occurring. Are people feeding well? Poor nutrition, we're talking about how the body is able to curb infection. Are people feeding well? There's poor nutrition, almost everywhere. Malnutrition, children are malnourished. We have in our environment now, or maybe we say some endemicity of some disease conditions that can reduce immunity, like HIV. Okay, there are some children born to HIV parents or who have the HIV. Their immune system is down. There are some other conditions that can also bring down the immune system. So the body cannot fight, and then they have infections. For example, a non-communicable one, diabetes. If you have a type 1 diabetes in a young child, okay, it's at risk of infection.
Okay, I haven't heard the burden in Nigeria, especially among the young people, and of course the elderly, like you rightly mentioned. What are the symptoms of this pneumonia? Okay. If I go to how do we prevent, what are the symptoms?
Thank you so much. So it's just simply put, when you're breathing normal, you're breathing well, normal and fine, without any complaints. Okay? Depending on the particular strain, there are other things that could also manifest. Some can present typically with the typical symptoms. Some can have atypical presentations.
What do you mean by that?
But for what I mean is, for the typical symptoms, this is what we expect of maybe a bacterial infection, of a viral infection. Okay, this person will complain of cough. This person can actually even cough out blood. They can cough out things, sputum, okay, which could be purulent. What I mean is that it changes color. They can be different colors, and those things can help us know likely what kind of organism is actually there. They come in with fever, hot temperature, and difficulty in breathing. Those are some of the typical symptoms that someone with pneumonia comes in. But you can have a typical one, and it's abdominal pain, no cough. The person can be moving around, no fever. Okay, so some just headaches. Okay, and it's high index of suspicion. The risk factors the patient has been exposed to, you then denote, and you can be able to diagnose some of all this. So typically, what they present is, as I've told you, germs enters into the system. It's been able to defeat the body's mechanisms. So the body tries to in a way, try to fight back. Pushes everything around there, fluids begin to gather there so that the body soldiers can go there. In terms of that sac that change, using breathing, exchange oxygen, take oxygen to the blood, carbon dioxide out to breathe out, you have fluid blocking that pathway. It could also lead to formation of all those, the cells will die there, the body soldiers, when it form pus, there can be pus there, it's there. That will also block all those things. There are receptors, or what we call signals within the lungs to tell that, there's something happening there. One of them is normal response, cough reflex. So the patient will want to what? Ideally what? It will stretch those receptors, and the patient wants to cough out. So that's why they have that coughing. It's actually a mechanism to actually help pull out some of the things that are wanted in the body. Okay? So the body has several mechanisms. As it tries doing that, it tries to clear it. If it erodes into some of the blood supply to the lungs, it can bleed. The patient can cough out blood. So it's not just a thing of just seeing, once people see blood, they believe it's more serious.
Yes.
And they want to come out. But we shouldn't just take cough and catarrh or fever as just normal, it's ordinary cough. Okay, most especially because of why it's very key is the fact that children, as at 36 weeks, while the child is still in the uterus, would say the lungs are about to be matured because they are able to participate in breathing, right? Because there's some fluid around it, we call them surfactant, that help the lungs not to collapse, okay? But ideally, the lungs matures at 8 years. So that is where you have the complete mature lungs and that fluid divide. And you have those sacs up to about 300 million. So imagine you having infection, things that are destroying the lungs even before age 8. So these are things that can now later on, people have issues over time, in life, whereby they will have some respiratory embarrassment. They can have scars that will form in that place, and that lungs might not be doing very well. So the symptoms actually varies. So there are some organisms that will occur, that will call them likely typical organisms that will present with all this fever, cough, difficulty in breathing, coughing out blood. Yes, quite common. But then the other ones which are atypical and will come out with bizarre manifestation.
Kind of signs.
Yes, okay. COVID is another one.
I'll have to stop you here, Dr. Mamadu. We'll take a short break now. The conversation will continue after the break.
The implementation of the ruling is also dependent on another aspect or another arm of government.
Nowhere in the world will allow under digital economy for banks not to be dispensing domestic currency in that economy.
What will make this one different? We want to know what they do as occupation. All of these are attributes that are questions have been designed to investigate.
In a few days to come, you see that we are all around their own crannies and everywhere in Nigeria, telling people to cooperate.
Welcome to Nigeria Today. Welcome back. This is still Nigeria Today, and we are discussing pneumonia and child survival. Of course, I have an expert here in the studio to break it down for us. Now, Dr. Mamadou, you've talked so much about the symptoms of pneumonia. Now, talk to us about its prevention. How can a parent, prevent pneumonia for a little child?
So thank you so much. You recall the theme is child survival. Children might not be able to talk. They might not be able to explain everything that is going on with them. So we need to have that care for them so that they can be able to thrive, breathe, and survive, which is quite important. So basically for a parent and the community at large, let me spread it out. We have different levels of prevention. Okay, primordial, primary, secondary, tertiary, even quaternary. So for pneumonia in itself, I think the government has done some primordial form of prevention, first of all, and that is part of the awareness that is being created now, as much as communities, families should help support the child breathe, whereby programs, there's a roadmap, I just said, the Nigerian Child Survival Action Plan. That is a good primordial input to ensure that people are sensitized and aware and know about this. Primary prevention could also come from us, whereby we help educate people about pneumonia. What we're doing now, we're health educating people. We're ensuring that these people know that this is a problem and it needs to be solved. Okay? So then, if we come down into some of the secondary, we want to identify quickly and treat. So this is where majorly the parents come in. Although as part of primary prevention, there are things we should do, but I'm trying to break it in such a way that we understand where each comes in. For the family, per se, how do you help with preventing pneumonia? It's to take away these risk factors. One, how well do we wash our hands? Hand washing is very important. Some people take different things through their mouth. You understand? Germs can go through each and any way. The parents, right from when the child is born, is this child vaccinated? So there's the pneumococcal conjugate vaccine that is in between the immunization schedule. At the appropriate month, the child is supposed to get this vaccination. Do they vaccinate? So they need to be aware that there is a free vaccination method that they can kick in to ensure that these children don't present, or even if they're exposed to it, the body soldiers are already there waiting to actually fight this. Do we feed our children well? Oh, my child only takes Capri-Sun. Oh, he only takes junk foods, doesn't eat good food. You're not helping the child. The child needs all the necessary nutrients to grow. We're not just saying feed the child, we are saying good nutrition for the children.
You're saying good nutrition.
Good nutrition, fruits, vegetables, ensure that all the classes of essential diets are in it. Carbohydrate, fats, protein, vitamins, they must be there. You don't just feed a child rice throughout one whole year and say you're feeding a child. Okay, good nutrition, because that's where the body has those soldiers to actually build up, to actually fight against infection, not only pneumonia, even other infections, okay, in other parts of the body. So it's quite important that all this actually done. Then we need to have a good health-seeking behavior. You see the child is coughing, you should preemptly or promptly take this child to the hospital to actually for the doctors to check. So if we talk about secondary care, we're talking about prompt or early diagnosis and treatment. So the parents can actually push that level of prevention and quickly carry this child to wherever it is. Even the teachers at school, you know, since a child is coughing, you should be able to say, oh, why are you coughing? Please send this child to the sick bay or to the health clinic. Let them check the child. Very, very important. Once we do majority of all this, the germ transmission is reduced, and we have better children growing and better children breathing well, and better children not only just surviving or thriving, in short, doing excellently well with their health.
Do you think our primary health care is strengthened enough, you know, to tackle some of these preventable diseases?
Okay, to answer that question, the primary health care system in Nigeria, we wouldn't just totally say they are not able to do much things. If you see the preventive measures I just mentioned now, most times it just requires the health education, basically. So we're not talking about basic or equipment here now, here and there. There's a system of healthcare. From primary to secondary, secondary to tertiary. Whatsoever primary can handle is ideal. Is quickly sent to a tertiary secondary center. You understand? And the secondary center can manage, can go to a tertiary. So first of all, the primary healthcare, if well-trained staffs, okay, I cannot adjudge how well-trained they are on pneumonia. But if health education can be given on the basic thing of vaccination, the primary healthcare centers vaccinate. Do they take these children to vaccinate them? So, health education from the primary health care center, okay, teaching on hygienic procedures or hygienic measures, even as close as hand washing, wearing face masks, when you're coughing, cough etiquette, so that you don't cough at people's faces, okay? These are basic things. They don't require large amount of money or equipment, okay? So in this way, you can actually give information which will help prevent some of all this. So that's why it's very, very preventable. It's when the germs have entered into the body that you're not trying to treat. And complications can arise, especially when it's not treated properly. And that it can even lead to death.
When you say complication, what kind of complications? Let's do, before we get to the death aspect, what kind of complications? Really?
Okay, so severally, if you have somebody who is breathing well and is not breathing well again, is that not a complication? The person is not able to breathe well. So difficulty in breathing can be a problem, okay? And it's not just only the present difficulty in breathing. If peradventure that its infection is so overwhelming and it destroys the lungs, what happens? That person becomes dependent on only the remaining part of the lungs that is present. But we need to know that COVID is a pneumonia. Tuberculosis is a pneumonia. So it's not just only having just the thing of, we just say a pneumonia infection without no name. These are all any germ that is able to get into the lungs, you understand, and disrupts it and causes problem within the lungs, causes a pneumonia. So it's not just like only that. TB, for example, is a pneumonia. You see children, a lot of children in one classroom, okay, up to about 100, small, tiny space, that floor is dirty, one is coughing around in that kind of environment, and you expect things not to spread, okay? So, but if they have some cough etiquettes, they have good hand washing skills, so that they don't put one, another one put into the mouth, another one put very close together. You understand? You know how children can play. So these are some of the things that we need to know. Basically, health education has a very vital role here.
So to sanitize the hand is also very important here.
Yes.
Thank you very much, Dr. Jafaru Mamadou, a pulmonologist.
Thank you.
Of the National Hospital, Abuja. Thank you for coming on the program and educating us on pneumonia. Thank you for being part of the program. Don't forget, Nigeria Today airs every weekday at 7:30 p.m. on NTA News24. You can also check out this episode and others on www.youtube.com/NTA News24 Hub. Once again, thank you for watching. I am Ikaria Clinton.
They say you cannot eat potential, neither can you bank potential.
For you to be able to enter into niche market or export your products to other countries, you need to acquire some international certification.
Nigeria produces more than 370,000 metric tons of shea.
The ambition is to double Nigerians' non-oil export figures.
The demand for African staple food generally across the globe is in high demand.
This is Business 24, and we're reaching you from the nation's capital, Abuja. I'm Comfort Amodu. Do not touch that dial.